AITA for deciding to go to Bosnia to donate a kidney to my mom even though she abandoned me? I am not OOP. I still have both kidneys. OOP is you, yield my organ. OOP clarifies in the comments that they are male. Original post May 2022. And NBSP. So, I, 25, have never met my mother. I was raised in Dublin by her older sister. My mom, 44, is a journalist and went to cover some story in Sarajevo because she was born there. From what my aunt told me, she got hit by a car, got hurt really badly and is experiencing kidney failure and for some reason can't get flown back to her estate in Romania. I don't know why. My aunt doesn't know much either. What she does know is that she needs a kidney and mine should work. I know my mom abandoned me. My aunt's made that very clear to me. My aunt has told me straight up that my mom felt stigmatized in Romania being a single mom and couldn't care for me cause of her depression and that she doesn't want to see me because it'd be too painful. But she gave me to my aunt so I had a good life instead of ending up with some family with whatever odds of them being good. That means that to some degree she does care for me even if she doesn't love me. But even beyond that, even though I've never met her, she's still my mom. So, I told my aunt that I'd go to Sarajevo and do the operation. I know I probably still won't meet her, but there's a part of me that feels this may be the closest I'll ever be to her. My fiancée Katerine doesn't really know much about Sarajevo, but she's terrified of war. She won't even watch me play Battlefield and she's so paranoid because of what's going on with Russia. Her phobias can get really bad sometimes. She learned that Sarajevo is where World War I started and is begging me not to go and keeps looking up statistics about the Serbian campaign of the war to try and scare me off. But then Katerine pointed out how she'd be terrified for me and told me it wasn't fair that to help somebody who didn't love me I'd be hurting her. And honestly, it makes me wonder if I am being the asshole to my fiancé by being adamant on doing this in person, instead of arranging for my kidney to be sent. So, if I am, please let me know. And NBSP. And NBSP. Update October 11th, 2022. And NBSP. So, the first thing that I will say is that donating a kidney is a bitch. It made my birthday suck. The second thing that I will say is that apparently to people in Bosnia, speaking Croatian with an Irish accent sounds absolutely adorable. I guess the big thing is that I did it. I went with my aunt to Sarajevo and it was revelatory. One thing I didn't know is that I am actually a year older than I thought, and it had to do with my mom escaping to Romania. There were a bunch of other things too, like meeting cousins who look exactly like me. But yeah, I gave the kidney. I had my aunt tell my mom that it was okay if it was too much to meet me, and I fully understood. A little bit before I was set to leave, though, she did agree to meet me. She gave me a hug, kissed me on the face, told me I was beautiful in 4 different languages, and then kept saying she was sorry for not being there for me. After we both calmed down, we had a big talk and she almost seemed offended and relieved that I wasn't mad at her for anything. It was weird though hearing her say how much I still look like I did as a baby, cause I don't feel I do. It was a bit of a floodgate opening since she has messaged me and called me so much since then. There hasn't been a day that she hasn't sent something and not a week that she hasn't apologized for something she doesn't need to. And then there was Katerine. She tried to get over me going, but she couldn't and went out drinking and partying while I was gone to get over it. But she said it didn't help and accidentally crushed a glass in her hand cause she was so nervous for me and really messed up her hand. So, when I came back, she broke things off with me because she said she needed to prioritize her recovery and her mental health. It sucked a lot, but I'm dating again now. And after being with a few guys and girls again, I guess that's why I felt like posting. For the people who are reading this post, the historical context is very important. OOP's mother was born and raised in Bosnia and was alive during the Bosnian War, which went from 1992 to 1995. During this time, many atrocities such as genocide, ethnic cleansing, and concentration camps for both men and women were widespread. My mom and dad were separated as my dad went to fight, and my mom was transported with my brother, who was a baby at the time, into a safe zone. But there were so many times where they could have died, such as when Serbian soldiers entered a bus they were on with other women and children and were told if they did not give them $1,000 worth of gold, the snipers on nearby buildings would shoot and kill every single one of them. My parents met up eventually and were forced to run and hide through the forests as well. My other family members were victims of genocide and ethnic cleansing. And honestly, I can make a whole post detailing everything my parents went through and what the families of my friends went through. I can even continue talking about how Serbia continues to deny it was genocide, and how the peace agreements to end the war screwed Bosnia. But that's for another post. Point being that, given how old OOP's mom was and how during the war women were placed into camps to be systematically raped and impregnated with the child of soldiers, it is very, very likely OOP is a child of his mother's trauma. She escaped thankfully. But Romania was no picnic either, as children of single mothers were very likely to be taken, especially if they were refugees. His mom went through so much trauma that it is no surprise she gave OOP to his aunt, who could raise him without the negative effects of events like that. Edit. Since my comment is receiving a lot of attention, I felt it necessary to tell you all this. My family's story is just one out of thousands upon thousands. Therefore I have to, and beg you all, to please read up more about the Bosnian War. So many families torn apart, and so many whose lines ended during the war. Read about Prijedor and Srebrenica. Read about how this affects us to this day. There is one movie called Quo Vadis, AITA that is extremely powerful, that tells you about Srebrenica. The lead, AITA, and her family didn't exist in real life. They were fictionalized for the viewers, but they were based on real people who have lived in Srebrenica. There is also an autobiography by Jasmina Sesic called The River Runs Salt Runs Sweet that details her life leading up to the war and her experiences during the siege of Sarajevo. Now I want to hear Croatian in an Irish accent to hear what it sounds like. It's so weird that his partner is more concerned about war because WW1 started there, when it's entirely reasonable to be afraid of your partner going to a foreign country to have a dangerous medical procedure. After reading this, I suspected OOP is a product of the rape camps, and it seems others do as well. I study international peace and conflict resolution for graduate school and have written lots of papers on conflicts all over the world. I've had to look at horrible pictures, read first-hand accounts of traumatic experiences, and deep dive into all aspects of bloody, devastating wars. My paper on Bosnia is the only one that almost broke me. I had to call my mom, crying, after one particularly long writing session. Any woman who walked away from that war should get credit for just breathing in and out every day. A comment on why OOP's mom may have given him up here. I wonder if you are aware of how common infant trafficking was in post-Ceausescu Romania, especially WRT infants of unwed mothers. She might not have abandoned you as much as she was keeping you safe from being seized by the government and adopted out to whichever Westerner was willing to pay the biggest bribe. A lot of these kids, by the way, ended up trafficked, raped, and even murdered. Your mother might not be comfortable telling you that. Some other comments from OOP that I think should have been included in the main post. Oop comments on people who say he did the wrong thing here. Thanks. Some people say I shouldn't have helped her. But if I could save her, then I feel it's my duty to do so. Oop responds to someone who said he did the wrong thing and his ex was right here. How am I an asshole for choosing to save the woman who gave birth to me? I understand why she had to do what she did. I don't hate her for it. And my ex didn't leave me because I gave the kidney. She left because of her own issues that she's now in treatment for. Oop responds to someone who bashes his mom here. I wasn't abandoned by her. I was given to my aunt so that I could have an actual childhood. Things didn't really turn out the way my mom expected. But I understand why she couldn't raise me. End of the day. She's still my mother, and what kind of a person would I be if I didn't save her? Quote. From what I can glean from the posts, it seems pretty clear that Oop was a product of rape from one of the Bosnian conflicts and that his mother's situation in Romania was very tenuous as well. He must have a very big heart, and despite never knowing his mom, love her very much to do this for her. I completely understand where she's coming from. But at the same time, he didn't have to do this for her. I'm sorry. His fiancée accidentally crushed a glass in her hand out of fear because he visited the place where World War I started? Geez, not the point of the post, but OOP's girlfriend's fear of war sounds pretty intense and weird. Funny how people calling the mom a bitch considering she didn't ask him to donate her anything. Everything he did is by his own choice and rationality. We don't know what she went through when she had Oop, and we don't know what Oop wants out of this. Does he want a future with her? Or he is doing this by his own choice? Whatever it may be, don't push your morals towards someone else, however bad or good it may be. I am Bosnian and I think Oop made the right choice. What his mom went through I wouldn't wish on anyone. I was in the war a very short time. Few months. We left Sarajevo with the last convoy that was allowed to leave. Only women and kids, great right? Except, on the outskirts of the city the convoy was stopped and captured by Serbs. Even though they had agreed to let us go through. Kept us for 3 days with no food and almost no water. They would make us drive in circles for hours. I am assuming to waste our gas. And then they would shove us all into a sort of a community center for the night. I was 12 and we would constantly hear commands over their radios. Kill them all. Hold. Wait for further communications. I think it was just mental torture, or maybe they were real commands. In front of the center were tanks of infamous Arkan soldiers, and one of the tanks had a necklace around the turret made of human ears. Eventually our side agreed an exchange. Let us go and our side will release a few hundred of their soldiers. Took us in total nearly 6 days to make a 3-hour trip to Croatia. My dad stayed as only women and kids could leave, and I didn't see him again for nearly 3 years. And months would go by without us hearing from him as phones in Bosnia were down and the only way to communicate is with help of radio amateurs. We would go for months not knowing if he's alive or dead. Not an experience I'd wish on anyone. Go back every chance I get, and it's my favorite place on earth, but with corruption and nationalist politics still in play, it's not a place I'd want to raise my family. Unfortunately, as nostalgia is still breaking my heart on a daily basis. If you get a chance, I highly recommend you visit Bosnia. It's a beautiful country with amazing people. Doesn't really know much about Sarajevo, but she's terrified of war. As someone from the Balkans, I just want to say JFC in the year of our Lord 2022. So what happens when you find out that your birth year is wrong? His aunt raised a good kid. This is not a choice I would have made for an estranged relative. I'm sorry his girlfriend is scared of war because Russia. But also because Sarajevo is where World War I started. What? Is Franz Ferdinand going to get shot to death a second time? I shouldn't make light of this too much. Phobias aren't always logical. And someone who crushes a glass in their hand is probably not in a great headspace. But seriously. World War I? Not the war from 2 decades ago. The war more than a century ago at this point. That one. I'm just baffled. There's some stories here that are likely fakes, but I don't know who would make up a detail like that. Oop is a very nice person. Now that is the most stereotypical AITA post title I have ever read. This isn't making a lot of sense. So Oop jetted off to Bosnia just on the off chance that their kidney might be a match? Aren't there a lot of preliminaries that you have to go through first? Can we take a moment to appreciate OOP's username LMFAO? All is well that ends well. A healthy outlook for everyone. Very unlike Reddit of Oop. I get being worried because he's getting surgery. I don't get being worried because 30 years ago there was a war where he got surgery. This is a really nice story, and I love that people have commented with nuances on what OOP's mother must have gone through as a pregnant Bosnian refugee in Romania in the early 1990s. For those slagging the girlfriend Katerine, it's perhaps valuable to also look up what was happening in Ireland in the same time period. Or perhaps considering that we don't actually know what Katerine's background is. And whether she is born and raised Irish or if there's something in her history too that makes certain elements of war very triggering for her.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.